Okay. Right. Coming to today's topic, we'll go further some more details about this sedimentation process. Okay. The major goal of treating the water by using this sedimentation process is just to remove the discrete materials, just to remove the discrete materials which are present in the wastewater. Okay. After knowing the preliminary treatment, next we will be entering into the primary treatment, that is nothing but the primary sedimentation process. Under this primary sedimentation, we need to know about the details. We need to know the entire details about the sedimentation. Okay, already we briefly discussed about what is mean by sedimentation, how the process will be done, and everything in the previous classes. Okay. Different types of the sedimentation tanks. Okay, today we will be discussing about how the particles will be settled in the sedimentation tank. Okay, right. This is the topic. Types of settlings. Okay, now see here. Types of settlings is nothing but we are treating the wastewater, right? Here the particles, the colloidal particles, the pathogens, whatever the particles, the discrete particles which are present in the water, that will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Okay, how they are going to be settled? What are the types of this settling particles? Okay, that we need to understand. Okay, see here, types of settlings. Particles may settle out of a suspension in the following four ways. Okay, these are considered into four different ways due to the suspension. That means due to the gravity, the particles, the discrete particles, will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Depending upon the concentration of the suspension and the fluctuating properties of the particles. Okay, depending upon the concentration itself. Concentration is nothing but the treating methods. How we are going to treat the wastewater in the preliminary, how we are going to treat the wastewater in the primary, how we are going to treat the wastewater in the secondary. Okay, based on that method, the particles are going to be concentrated, and this concentrated or colloidal particles will be form into a fluctuating material. Fluctuating is nothing but the flux, a group of material, a group of particles will be collide with each other, and it will be formed as a flux, and the size and the mass of that particular particle will be high. Okay, so that automatically, if the mass of the particle is increased, automatically the specific gravity of the particle will be increased, and that easily it will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Okay, in this way the particles will be settled. But here we need to know the different types of the settling particles that will be considered, that are divided into four different ways. That is type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Okay, how this four types of the particles will be settled at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. See here, you can see the graph as well as the diagram. See, this is the tank, sedimentation tank, whether it will be horizontal or rectangular, whatever it may be. See, in the first type, the type of the particles which will be settled in the water, wastewater, that will be named it as a discrete settling. That comes under the type 1. Okay, what is mean by discrete settling? What is mean by type 2? What is mean by type 3? That will be discussed. Okay, now itself. Okay, just I am showing the a diagram about this four different types of the particles which will be settled in the sedimentation tank. Right. The first type is nothing but the discrete settling, and the second type, which comes under this wastewater treatment, the particles which will be settled under this second type will be named it as a flocculent settling. Will be named it as type 2 particles. Okay. Next, third type, type 3 particles, which we are going to name it as a zone settling, and the fourth type we are going to name it as a compression settling. Okay, these are the four different categories, four different types of the particles which will be settled in the bottom of the sedimentation process. Okay, the first two types will be used in the preliminary treatment itself. The particles which are settled in the preliminary, that consists of these two different types, that is discrete settling, and the second one is flocculent settling. Remaining two, that is zone settling and compression settling, this will be done in the second primary sedimentation tank as well as secondary sedimentation tank. Okay, the first two parts, the first two types of the settling will be done in the preliminary, and the remaining two types of settling particles in the sedimentation, that will be done in the primary as well as a secondary sedimentation process. Okay, these are the four different types of particles which will be settled in the bottom of the, or which will be settled in the sedimentation process. Okay. Now see, what is mean by discrete settling, what is mean by type 2, what is mean by type 3, and what is mean by type 4. Now we will be discussing about these four different types of the particles. Aditya. Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Discrete settling. Remaining, please switch on your videos. Okay, if you are not switching, then automatically I will remove from the session. Automatically will be option. Okay. Please, Sulavan itself. Please, whenever you are attending the session, please be in a decent manner. Try to wear a shirt or a t-shirt, or be in a good-looking manner. Please think once. The class is going on. If any higher officials are entering into the class, what I need to tell them? You are not a student, right? After 2 to 3 months, you are going to get job and you are working. You will be as a employer. At the time, you will do same things. Please try to understand. Try to be a good person. Okay, while entering into any session, please maintain some decency. Okay, right. Anyway, leave it the remaining part. Coming to the topic, that is discrete settling. Okay, see the first type which will be settled in the preliminary process, how the particles will be settled at the bottom of the different kinds of the tanks, that will be name it as a settling particles, or will be name it as a discrete settling particles, or some other whatever the type. Okay, see here what is mean by discrete settling means. See here, this corresponds to the sedimentation of discrete particles in a suspension of low solid concentration. Okay, wherever the particles are very less. Okay, due to the suspension at that particular time, the particles where it will be settled, that is nothing but a discrete settling. Discrete is nothing but low solid concentration. That means individual particles will be settled in the tank. The particles will be very less, and the size and the shape of the particles will not be very. Okay, individually it will be settled without any concentration with other particles. That comes under the discrete settling. This is also known as free settling, since the particles have little tendency to flocculate or coalesce upon contact with each other. Okay, it will be having some tendency to made into the flocco, but due to the low solid concentration, it will not go and concentrate with other particles. So for that purpose, it will be settled individually at the bottom of the tank. So that type of particles, that type of settling particles will be named as a discrete settling particles in the any different kinds of the tank. Mostly this type of discrete settling particles will be seen in the preliminary process under this grid chambers, like screeners, like some other different units. Okay, that are nothing but the discrete settling particles. Okay, next coming to the type 2, flocculent. So here the word itself gives that some of the particles will be concentrated with other, and it will be stick with other particles, and the mass of the particles will be increased. If the mass of the particles is increased, then automatically what will happen? The specific gravity of that particles, that waste particles will be, that solid particles will be increased, and this gives easy settling of the particles in the settling tank. Okay, see, flocculent settling. This type of settling refers to dilute suspension of particles that coalesce or flocculate during sedimentation process. Due to flocculation, particles increase in mass and settle at the faster rate. So automatically it will be attracted. Why means the concentration of these particles will be very high. Okay, the solid particles which are present in this particular type will be very high, and due to this suspension. Due to this suspension, the concentration of the particles will be very high, and it will be formed into a fluctuating. Fluctuating is nothing but it will be stick with the other particle, and the size and the mass of the particle will be varies. If the mass and size of the particles will be varies, what will happen? The specific gravity of that particular particles will be increased, and if it increase, then automatically it is very faster to settle at the bottom of the sedimentation tank or some other different preliminary treatment. Okay, that is about the flocculent settling. Next, coming to the type 3, that is hindered or zone settling. Okay, hindered or zone settling. Zone is nothing but, so suppose if you take example of a zone, there will be a group of people or a group of particles. Okay, that will be come and made into a zone, and due to this sticking of more particles, more concentration, then automatically the mass of the particle will be very high comparing to the remaining settling particles. Then it is very easy to settle at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. Okay, this type of settling refers to flocculent suspension of intermediate concentration. Okay, interparticle forces hold the particles together, and hence the mass of the particles subside as a whole. Okay, so here it will be made into a group of particles. Group is nothing but a zone. We will be naming it as a zone. Why it will be made into a zone means here the particles, the waste particles are very high in this particular treatment. Okay, at that particular time it will be made into the group, and that group will be named as a zone. Okay, why it will be made into zone means due to the suspension contraction concentration. Okay, if this happens, automatically a group of particles will be formed into together, and if group of particles are formed into together, then automatically it will be made into a flux. Flux is nothing but the mass of the particle will be very high. Okay, the mass of the particle will be very high. That means nothing but a group of particles are concentrated with other particles, and it will be made into one particle. Then automatically the size of the particles will be increased. The size and shape of the particle will be increased. The mass of the particle will be increased. Then automatically the specific gravity of that particle will be increased. Then it is very easy to settle at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. So that's why this type 3 and type 4, which can be seen mostly in the secondary process. That is a primary sedimentation as well as a secondary sedimentation process. Okay. Now coming to the type 4, compression settling. Compression settling is nothing but here we are going to blow some compressed air into the tank. Okay, due to the compressed air, due to this flocculent suspension, the more particles will be concentrated, and it will be made into a group, and there will not be any gap between the particle to particle. The water cannot be traveled. Okay, so a group of particles individual particles are forming into a group of particles, and it will be made into a flux. Okay, that flux is entirely settled at the bottom of the tank. That is nothing but the compression. Compression is nothing but just with the help of the blowing air, compressed blowing air. Okay, see here. This refers to flocculent suspension of so high concentration that particles actually come in contact. So due to the due to the blowing of this compression air, the concentration of the particles will be very high, and this all comes in contact with each other and resulting in a formation of a structure. Okay, see here. Actually come in contact with each other, resulting in the formation of a structure. So it will be made into a group, and it will form into a structure. Further settling can occur only by compression of structure brought about due to weight of the particle which are constantly being added to the structure. Okay, further the remaining particles are made into different kinds of structure that will be constantly settled at the bottom of the tank. Okay, that is about the compressed settling. Just here at the bottom of the tank, the sedimentation tank, here we are blowing with the compressed air. Due to that, what will happen? The water will be circulated throughout this, and all the particles are coming contact with each other and made into a structure. Okay, that due to the formation of this structure, the mass of the particles will be gets more high, and this will be settled very easily at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. Okay, these are the 4 different types of the settling particles in the sedimentation tank. I will give some more information about these 4 different types. Let's see some other slide. One minute, wait. Okay, we'll see the other slide. What are these different uh, types of settling? Okay. Okay, can you see the share screen? Please respond. Please respond. Can you
Yes,
see
sir.
the
Yes,
share
sir.
screen? Right, right, right. Thank you, thank you. Okay, types of settling. Okay, see here. See, these are the 4 different types. 4 types of sedimentation. That is discrete settling, flocculent settling, hindered settling, or compression settling. Okay, discrete and flocculent, which are comes on in the preliminary treatment process, and hindered settling and compression settling. This comes under this primary sedimentation or the secondary sedimentation process. Okay, see the first type. See the first type. Type 1, discrete settling. See here in the picture you can see, you can observe that the particles are moving towards downward direction individually. So the meaning itself gives that the particles will be settled at the bottom of the tank individually. Okay, so that type of settling will be named as a discrete settling. See here, in discrete settling, individual particles settle independently. So here the concentration of the solid particles will be very less. So automatically the particles will be suspended individually, and it will be settled independently at the bottom of the settling tank. So this type of settling particles will be named as a discrete settling, or we can call it as a settling independently or individually settling particles. Okay, that is about the discrete settling. Here you can observe in the picture itself. See, the particles are moving towards the downward direction, but these particles are not concentrated with other particles. There is no group formation or there is no zone formation. Just individually, each particles are traveling individually and settling at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. Okay, that will be named as a discrete settling or individual particle settling. Okay, it occurs when there is a relatively low solid concentration. So automatically the concentration of the particle, very less particles are the concentration is very low due to this suspension. Then automatically it will be settled individually at the bottom of the sedimentation tank. This will be named as a discrete settling or individual particle settling. That is the type 1. Okay, see here, this mostly can be observed in a grid chamber and plain sedimentation tank. Okay, this, so that's why I said before itself, the first 2 types of settling particles comes under the preliminary treatment, and then the next 2 rest of 2 particles, settling particles, which will comes under remaining process, that is primary sedimentation tank or the secondary sedimentation tank. But here we are discussing about the type 1 settling particle settling, that is nothing but the discrete particle settling. Okay, that we can be seen mostly in the grid chamber and plain sedimentation tank. Okay, no change in size, shape and mass of the particles. So here the particles are traveling towards downward direction. That means these particles are settling at the bottom of the tank individually, independently. These are settling. But so for that purpose, the size will not be changed. The shape of the particle will not be changed. The mass of the particle will be remain same. So the point says that no change in size, no change in shape, and no change in the mass of the particles. Why there is no change in the shape, size, and mass means it is independently. These particles are independently settling at the bottom of the tank. Okay, that is about the second point. Next, settling velocity of particles are computed by Stokes formula. Okay, based on this Stokes formula, the velocity of the particles are computed. That is the main point. Okay, based on this Stokes formula, the settling velocity of particles are going to be computed. This is about the first type of settling particles under this preliminary sedimentation or preliminary treatment. Next, coming to the second type, flocculent settling. Flocculent is nothing but the formation. That means particles are formed into a group. Okay, it gives it the shape of the particles will be changed, and the mass of the particles will be changed, and the size of the particles will be changed. Okay, when the particles are concentrated with other particles, that will be named as a flocculent or a flux. Okay, a group of particles will be named as a flux. See here, in flocculent settling, individual particles stick together into clumps called flux. See, I said before itself, when the individual particles are stick together into other particles, that means the particles are going to be concentrated with other particles. It is going to be formed into a group of particles that will be named as a clumps or called flux. Okay, this occurs when there is a greater solid concentration. Okay, this type of flocculent settling appears when there is a greater solid concentration, and chemical or biological reactions alter particle surface to attachment. Okay, this at this particular type of reactions, like chemical reactions or biological reactions, this type of flocculent settlings will be happen. Okay, see here in the picture you can see the individual particles are concentrated with other particles. That means it is going to be stick with other particles. Then automatically the shape and size of the particles will be changed. Okay, if the shape and the size will be changed, more particles are made into a group, then automatically the mass of the particle will be increased. If the mass of the particles will be increased, then the specific gravity also will be increased. If the specific gravity is greater than water, then automatically it will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Okay, that is the process how this flocculent settling, flocculent particles will be settled in the tank. See here, in Clary flocculator and primary sedimentation tank. Okay, this can be seen in the Clary flocculent and primary sedimentation process. Okay, size, shape, mass of particles change during settlement. See, I said why it will be changed. The three types, that is size, shape, mass, means due to the concentration with other particles. Then automatically the size of the particle will be changed. The shape of the particle will be changed. Mass of the particle will be changed during the settlement. When concentration at 1000 mg per liter, okay, it will be concentrated 1000 mg per liter. No mathematical relationship to find the settling velocity of flux. Okay, here there are no like mathematical relations are not going to be find for the settlement of this different types of the flux. Okay, that is about the flocculent particle settlings or flocculent settlings. Next, third type, that is type 3, hindered settling or zone settling, or we can name it as a type 3. Okay, zone is nothing but a group of particles comes together. Okay, see here, you can in the picture itself you can see more particles are concentrated with each other. See, 2 or 3, 4 particles, 5 particles, like that. Okay, it will be, why means the solids are going to be highly concentrated in this particular type. This can be seen mostly in the sedimentation process. See here, in hindered settling particle, in hindered settling, particle concentration is great enough to inhibit water movement. So in this, the concentration of the solids will be very high, and it will be contacted with each other. Water must move in space between particles. Okay, here the water must be moved. Why? Means it is a group of particles only. Okay, not a compressed particles. Okay, but here the more particles will be concentrated with each other. Okay, so that's why the size will be very high, and so that's why we'll be name it as a zone settling. Okay. See here, in secondary sedimentation tank activate after activated sludge process. Okay, the here activated sludge is nothing but here we are going to treat the sludge in different ways. That is aerobic condition and non-aerobic condition. Aerobic is nothing but under the oxygen, and non-aerobic in the absence of oxygen. That will be studied when we go to the biological treatment. Okay, under this process we can see this type of hindered or zone setting. When concentration of particles that is under 1500 mg per liter or 1800 mg per liter, the particles are not in physical contact with each other. Okay, there will be some gap, but the velocity field overlap resulting in settlement. Okay, due to this velocity. Okay, that means it will be pushes the particles to concentrate with each other with the other particles, then automatically settling of the flocculent particles under this sedimentation process. That is about the hindered or zone settling. This is the final type of the particles, that is concentration or type 4 settling particles. See here. Compression settling occurs when particles settle by compression in the flow. Okay, here the air is going to be blown at the bottom of this tank. So at that time, what will happen? The entire water will be disturbed. Entire water will be disturbed means automatically the particles which are present in the solid waste, that will be disturbed. So it will be due to this compressed air, it will be made. So then there is no space of moving the water. So automatically what will happen? The size of this sludge or the size of this solid will be waste particles will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Okay, this is one of the most important point. Okay. See here. In secondary sedimentation tank after trickling filter. Okay, this can be seen. This can be observed in the secondary sedimentation tank after trickling filter. Concentration of particles is very high. Okay, the concentration of particles will be in a 2000 mg per liter. Okay, when we go to the like type 3, type 2, type 1, the concentration is very less comparing to the compressed settling. Okay, particles are in physical contact with each other. So all the particles are concentrated with each other, are contacted with each other. Then it is completely formed into a structure. That structure is going to be settled at the bottom of the settling tank. Okay, this is about the 4 different types of the settling particle. That is, type 1 is discrete settling, and the type 2 is hindered flocculent settling, and the third type is hindered settling or zone settling, and the fourth one is compression settling. Okay, in the first discrete, this comes under the preliminary process. Due to the low solid concentration, the particles are individually or independently, it will be settled at the bottom of the tank. That comes under the discrete settling. Coming to the flocculent, due to the high solid concentration, the particle will be stick with other particle, and then automatically the shape and the size of the particles will be changes. The mass of the particle will be increased, so it is very faster to settle at the bottom of the tank. Coming to the hindered settling. Okay, here completely the particle, the concentration of the solid concentration very high comparing to the remaining 2 types, that is type 1 and type 2, and this completely form into a zone. Okay, that particles will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Now coming to the type 4, that is compression. Due to the blow of the particles are disturbed, and this completely it is going to be concentrated with other group of particles, then these particles are converted or formed into a structure. That structure is going to be settled at the bottom of the tank. So in this way, different types of the particles will be settled, and this settleable solids will be named as a sludge. Okay, that sludge is going to be collected or disposed in the different process. Okay, that is about the different types of the settling particles. That is about the different types of the settling particles under this sedimentation process. Okay, now coming to the next topic. Okay, see here, process of about different types. See here, the discrete settling remove grit and sand particles from the wastewater. Okay, the discrete settling. So that's why I said this can be observed in the preliminary treatment process. So that's why it can be remove grit and sand particles from the wastewater. The flocculant settling removes a portion of the suspended solids in untreated wastewater. So that's why I said the discrete and the flocculant settling, this all comes under the preliminary treatment process. In a primary settling tanks, in upper portion of secondary settling tank also removes chemical flux. Okay, whatever the bacteria which comes under this, that will be settled. That is nothing but the flocculant settling. Zone settling occurs in secondary settling facilities used in conjunction with biological treatment units. Okay, this zone settling and comparative settling comes under the biological treatment process. So, okay, when we go to the next process, next treatment, that is nothing but the biological treatment. At that time, you can understand this zone settling and compression settling, how the particles are going to be settled in the sedimentation process. Next, types of settling tanks. Those are types of settling particles. These are types of settling tanks. It is classified in 3 ways. See here, classification based on the nature of working, classification based on its location, classification based on the shape. Okay, it is classified in 3 ways. That is classification based on nature of working, classification based on its location, classification based on its shape. Nature of working. Nature of working is nothing but how the water is going to be flowed in the different types of the tanks. That is, the first one is fill and draw type, and the second one is continuous flow type. Okay. Based on this flow of the water, here the different types of velocities are going to be considered, and how the particles are going to be settled in this particular sedimentation process. Coming to the classification based on its location, preliminary settling tank, primary settling tank, and secondary settling tank. Already this is based on the location we have discussed in the first units itself. What is in the preliminary settling tank, how it works, what is in the primary, and what is in the secondary settling tank. Next, coming to the classification based on the shape. Okay, it is characterized into 3 different types, that is rectangular settling tank, and the circular settling tank, and the third one is copper bottom settling tank. Okay, we'll see these 3 different classifications under based on the nature of work, based on this location, and based on the shape. Now see, the first one is fill and draw type settling tank, or intermittent or quiescent settling tank. So these 3 are same. In the question you may ask, write about the intermittent settling tank, or write about the quiescent settling tank, or write about the fill draw type settling tank. So please don't get confused. Okay. Right. See here, fill and draw type. Fill and draw is nothing but, see here in the word itself we can understand that just in the tank the wastewater is going to be filled and the water is going to be keep into rest for 24 hours for certain time without any disturbance. At that time, what will happen if the water is not disturbing for some time, then automatically the particles which are present in the water, that will slowly comes to the bottom of the water tank or bottom of that particular tank, and it will be settled at the bottom of the tank, and the remaining water will be fed into the next settling tank. Okay, that is about the fill and draw type settling tank. Here you can see in this type, first tank is filled with the incoming wastewater, that is incoming wastewater, and is allowed to rest for certain time. See here, in the first tank filled with the incoming wastewater and is allowed to rest for certain time. Here certain time is nothing but here we need to maintain minimum 24 hours. Okay, during this rest period, the suspended particles settles at the bottom of the tank. Okay, during without if your water is not disturbing for some time, then automatically the particles having more specific gravity, that will be automatically settled at the bottom of the tank. That you know. Okay, you can do the experiment in the house itself. Okay, if you take the turbid water which consists of more suspended particles or soluble particles, if we are not disturbing and we are keeping the water without disturbing for some time, then automatically the particles, the polluted particle, that will be settled at the bottom of the jar or tank. Generally, the detention period of this particular procedure is 24 hours is allowed. Okay, at the end of the period, the effluent is drawn off through the outlet well. Effluent is nothing but after removing of this sludge which is present in the wastewater, the remaining part which is coming as outlet, that will be named as effluent. Okay, the tank is then cleaned of settled particles and filled again. Okay, after the completion of this process, again we need to do that means it is a we'll call interchange process. Okay, once the process is completed, again the new water will come, and again we need to remove some different kinds of the particles for the fresh sewage. The tank is then cleaned of settled particles and filled again. Okay, whatever the particles are settled for this effluent, that will be cleaned, and again new process should be done. New water will come, and for that again we need to do the treatment. The cleaning may take another 6 to 12 hours. Okay, to remove this sludge particle which are settled at the bottom of this tank. So to remove that or to clean that tank, it will take 6 to 12 hours. So thus the cycle of operation takes 30 to 36 hours. So the detention time of this particular to remove or to fill the water, it will take 24 hours, or after filling whatever the particles are settled at the bottom of the tank, to remove that sludge, it will take 6 to 12. Total, it will take 30 to 36 hours. Okay, a minimum of 3 hours, such 3 units, a minimum of 3 such units are required to maintain constant flow of effluent. Okay, 3 units here, the flow will be very constant. Okay, in this more time and more labors are required. So this in under this type of settling tank, we require more time and more labors. So this type of nowadays we are not following this type of settling tank. We are using some of the advanced methods. Okay, it will take within the limited time we can remove the sludge, and we can clean very easily, and again for further process we can use that type of settling tanks. Now see here, if you see the diagram of this settling tank, see here, this is the inlet value. Inlet value is nothing but the effluent which comes to the previous process, it will be entered into the settling tank. Here the water will be discharged. Okay, the velocity of the water will be very less, and directly it will be fell into this tank. Okay, for 24 hours it is going to be not disturbed. Okay, after 24, what will happen due to the particle sizes is more, the specific gravity of particle sizes are more, then automatically it will be settled at the bottom of the tank. That will be named as a silt or sludge. Okay, after that the remaining water which is present in the tank, that will be comes out through this outlet valve. Okay, that is nothing but the this is a simple process how we are going to remove the particles from this fill and draw type. Just we are feeding the passing the water into this intermittent tank, and the water will not be disturbed for 24 hours. Okay, after 24 hours, the particles will be settled at the bottom of the tank, and the remaining water will be removed. Now the cleaning, the particles which are settled, that is nothing but the silt or sludge, that should be removed. Okay, or that should be cleaned. It will take 6 to 12 hours. Total 36 hours it will take. So for that purpose, it will be taking more time to operate this type of a settling tank. Next one is continuous flow type tank. See, in this, the waste water continuously keeps on moving. So here the water is not going to be rested. Okay, it is continuously moving with some velocity, constant velocity. In this, the waste water continuously keeps on moving in the tank. So with a very small velocity, during which time the suspended particles settle at the bottom of at the bottom before they reach the outlet. Okay, here the water will come, and here some vertical baffles will be there here. Okay, why means if water is directly fed into this tank, at that time the velocity will be very high. So to reduce the velocity, this baffles, this vertical partition walls will be useful. Okay, it will reduces the after sucking this water to this baffle, automatically the velocity flow of the water will be decreased. If the velocity is decreased, then automatically the particles will be settled slowly. It will be settling here. Some particles will be settled after moving to the next compartment. Here some particles will be settled. Okay, so when the water completely comes to the outlet of this tank, then automatically mostly 99% of the particles will be settled through the movement of this water itself. Okay, this is also one of the process, but here the water will not be stopped. The water will not be stagnant. Continuously the water will be flowed throughout the process. So that's why we'll be named it as a continuous flow type tank. Okay, see, in this, the waste water continuously keeps on moving in the tank. Okay, continuously it will be moving throughout the tank, though with a very small velocity, during which time the suspended particles settle. So when the water is moving with a low velocity, how the velocity will be decreased means due to the help of this vertical baffles. So at that time, the suspended particles will be settled at the bottom of the tank. Here, settling is done by gravity, and the velocity is maintained uniform. So due to the gravity, the particles will be settled, and the velocity is maintained constant, or velocity is maintained uniform. Okay, this is the process how the particles are going to be settled. How the particles are going to be settled under this process. Okay, this is about the continuous flow type tank. Okay, next one is rectangular sedimentation tank. That will be studied in the next class in the afternoon. Okay, that is 5th hour we will going to see, and the 6th hour we will be having the test. Okay, today there will be test, and one more important point. Today suddenly we got the message that the PPT in charge, that is trainer, his name is Bharat. I think Bharat sir came for you also. You may seen or may not seen, I don't know. He will come for soft skills. He suddenly passed today in the morning, so that's why they cancelled this PPT classes. Okay, from tomorrow onward, again the classes will be continued as per the schedule. Okay, right. Please be safe and stay at your homes. Okay, we'll meet in the 5th hour. That is 3 to 4 o'clock, and 2 to 3 o'clock, I think so. Okay, next the test will be 3 to 4 p.m. Okay. Whatever now, whatever the topics which we will be discussed today, that only will come for the test. Okay, I will send a Google form link. You can write, and you need to log into the session. Okay, you need to write the test. Right. Okay. Thank you so much for coming to online class. Have a nice day. You can exit and you can join to